Hello and welcome to Study with Sudhir. This is your digital classroom and my name is TS Sudhir. Today we are going to be taking a look at a chapter from the Andhra Pradesh and Telangana SSC, that is Class 10 English Paper 2 syllabus. And this is from the book Our World Through English, which is common to both boards. And this is from the first unit of personality development. Okay. I'm going to explain this largely in English, in very simple English, and I will go very slow so that you understand what the chapter is all about and also understand the keywords, the important words, the meanings, and what kind of questions you are likely to get in the examination. Okay. Any doubts, write in the comment section. I will be more than happy to address them. This chapter that I am going to look at today in this video lesson is called I Will Do It, and this is written by Sudha Murthy. Sudha Murthy is the wife of Narayana Murthy, who founded Infosys in the 1980s. Infosys, as many of you would know, is one of the leading information technology IT firms in India, and they have a footprint centers in many parts of India, many cities of India, also across the world, right? So when you say IT in India, one of the first names that comes to your mind is Infosys, right? Now this is the story of Narayana Murthy much before he founded Infosys, right? What kind of a boy Narayana Murthy was, what kind of a student life he led, what were the kind of influences on his life is what this particular very inspiring chapter speaks about. Okay, so we will go through the reading of the chapter and I will keep explaining it, the themes of this chapter as we go along. Okay, I hope you have your book in front of you. Also keep a pencil so that you can underline the keywords. Remember always, when you are writing an answer, if you use words from the chapter itself, from the story, from the poem, it will add a lot of weight to your answer, because what it will show is that Miku, the story is very familiar to you. That is something which way it will show if you quote in double quotes from the story or the poem or the chapter. So if you underline some of the keywords, one word, two words, and use them in your answer, that is something I strongly suggest and recommend. Okay, let me read the story. He was short, okay, takwa height, not a very tall person. He was sharp, okay, he was the brightest boy in the class. His seniors used to ask him to solve their difficulties in science. So just look at the kind of reputation Narayana Murthy had, that he, even though he was younger in age and of a junior class, his seniors in the class above him would come to him to solve difficulties in the subject of science. He could have gone unnoticed in a crowd. That is, if there is a crowd, because he is short, okay, nothing about his personality that kind of stood out, but it was his intelligence. So unless you knew him, he would get lost in a crowd. Okay, he would not stand out. When you say stand out, what does it mean? You know, when you have a height, you know, you generally look different from the rest. But here she says he could have gone unnoticed in a crowd. But once you asked him a question related to physics or maths, there was a spark in his eyes. Spark means a twinkle, a brightness in his eyes, the moment you asked him a question related to either of the two subjects. So immediately in the first paragraph, you have come to know where his interests lie, what were his strong points. Okay, and it gives you a sense of his entire physical as well as mental personality. Kada? He could grasp theories of science faster than the speed of light. So look at the comparison that Sudha Murthy has made. Speed of light, we know the light travels the fastest. So she says that he could grasp theories of science even faster than the speed of light. So we know it's an exaggeration. You know, it's not possible, obviously, because light travels the fastest. But it's also the comparison has been made to show how good Narayana Murthy really was. Okay, he came from a poor but educated family. The family was not very well off financially, but it was educated. So the emphasis on learning, on education was very much in the family. His father was a high school teacher and an avid reader of English literature. So he liked to read quality English literature. Okay. And he was also a teacher, an educator. So, those kind of, there is a natural interest in learning and education that, was passed on to his son as well. He, like all the boys in his class, was trying to get admission into some engineering college. Okay, so he wanted to become an engineer. The brighter ones wanted to study in the Indian Institutes of Technology or the IITs. The IITs have always been the most prestigious institutions as far as the engineering stream is concerned even today. Okay. At that time earlier there used to be just 6 IITs. So getting into an IIT was considered a matter of great prestige. Now of course the number of IITs has also increased. So in that sense, koncham takwa, but there is still a degree of prestige. When you say I am from an IIT, there is a sense of you are from an IIT. Okay. So Narayana Murthy also wanted to get into one of the IITs. There was an entrance exam for IIT which is known as the IITJEE Joint Entrance Examination. This boy along with his friends applied to appear for the test. So he also filled the application form to appear for the entrance examination. They did not have any special books or coaching like it is today. Iroju, you have Narayana, Chaitanya, Fiji, Allen, Kota, Resonance. Okay. Lot of coaching institutes are there, right? In cities in both Andhra and Telangana also. All these IIT aspirants would sit below the shade of a stone mandap. Mandap is a place, where this kind of marriages, etc. can take place, So it is like that, and they would sit under there and study close to the Chamundi Hills in the sleepy town of Mysore. Mysore is 3 hours from Bengaluru in South Karnataka. So there is a very famous tourist spot called Chamundi Hills, right? So this person hailed from Mysore. So he and his friends would go there and study in that stone mandap. Okay. He was the guide for the others. So they did not have any teachers. They did not have any mentors. But so Narayana Murthy was like the guide to the others, because we've already seen that he could solve questions and grasp theories of science faster than the speed of light, and also be able to do it better than his seniors. While the others struggled to solve the problems in the question paper, he would smile shyly and solve them in no time. That solve them in no time means solve them very fast, taking almost no time. That is the way the phrase is structured. He sat alone below a tree and dreamt of studying at IIT. So you realize that this was his dream, to be studying at the IIT, one of the IITs. It was the ultimate aim for any bright boy at that age, as it still is today. He was then only 16 years old. So that is his age at that time. When you are getting into 12th class and stuff like that, you are that age. So that was his dream. I hope it is clear till now. The D-Day came. Now D-Day means the important day. That's how the phrase D-Day is, But how did the origin of the word D-Day come? That's something very important, and it's associated with history from the Second World War. And I'll tell you briefly, not that it's directly connected to the Narayana Murthy story, but it's an interesting piece of history. Okay. D-Day was the date which is June 6th, 1944. June 6th, 1944, when the American, the British and other army troops landed on the beaches of North France in the Second World War. It was known as the Normandy landing, Normandy landing. The place Normandy, landed in Normandy in northern France. The entire operation was codenamed as Operation Neptune. I'm just giving you this basic information. It's good general knowledge information also. Operation Neptune, and this at that time was the largest seashore invasion in world history. Seashore invasion in world history. So this was part of the Second World War, towards the end of the Second World War. When did the Second World War end? 1945, right? With the bombings in Japan at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. I'm sure you would have read it in your history lessons, right? Now the D-Day came. So the D-Day is the important day. That's how the word D-Day is used. He came to Bangalore from Mysore, stayed with some relatives and appeared for the entrance test. So his center was Bangalore, not Mysore. So he had to travel that 3-hour distance. He did very well, but would only say okay when asked. So somebody asked, how did you do? He will say, okay. So he's not somebody who would kind of, say, oh, I did brilliantly, main to phod dunga, not that kind of language used by Narayana Murthy. So he was basically an introvert and played down things, not like, I am top cheese, not like that. It was the opposite when it came to food. When he said okay, somebody gave him food and said, how was it? If he said okay, it implied means it meant it was bad. But he will never say it was bad, he will say it was okay. So that the person who is serving him, who has given him the food, does not feel bad. When he said good, he implied okay. When he said good, it meant it was okay, not bad. Better than bad, but it was not good either. It was somewhere in between, average. When he said excellent, it meant good. Okay, so he would always kind of say something a little better, a more superlative degree of expression than what it really was. His principle was never to hurt anyone. As I said, if you are giving something, arey, this pencil is very bad. If I say that, you will feel hurt if you have given me the pencil. Kada? So I will say this pencil is very good, even if it is not writing very well, so that you don't feel hurt. That shows you Narayana Murthy's principle that he didn't want to hurt anyone. So he's basically a good natured person. Okay. The IIT entrance results came. He had passed with a high rank. Okay. What a delight for any student, because to come as All India rank, high rank, is something which is considered very prestigious in the IITJEE examination. He was thrilled. He went to his father, who was reading a newspaper. Anna, I have passed the examination, referring to his father as Anna. Well done my boy. I want to join IIT. His father stopped reading the newspaper. His father, who was a teacher. He lifted his head, looked at the boy and said with a heavy voice. Heavy voice conveys sadness. My son, you are a bright boy. You know our financial position. Basically saying that we don't have the money to send you to the IIT. Even though IIT is actually not very expensive. That shows that they were from a very poor family. I have 5 daughters to be married off and 3 sons to educate. So apart from Narayana Murthy, there were 5 sisters and 2 other brothers who had to be educated. I am a salaried person. I cannot afford your fees expenses at IIT. You can stay in Mysore and study as much as you want. So if you go to another city IIT, whether it's an IIT Chennai, IIT Madras or Bombay or Kanpur or Delhi or Kharagpur, you will need to stay in a hostel, the traveling expenditure, paying for the food, paying the fees, etc. All that would have been a burden for the father of Narayana Murthy. So he said, if you stay in Mysore and study, that will do much better, because then you don't have to spend any of this kind of expenditure and yet get educated. Indeed, it was a very difficult situation for any father to say no to his bright son, right? If the son was average, no problem. But Narayana Murthy was a very bright student. But circumstances were like that. The situation was like that. It was common then for the man to be the single earning member with a large family dependent on him. So only the father was earning at the school, but they had a large family. And this was very common in India of that time. His father was sad that he had to tell the bitter truth to his son, but it could not be helped. The boy had to understand the reality. The boy had to understand that this is the real financial position of my house, of my family, of my father. So he had to understand it was a bitter truth, in the sense that, it was not something very pleasant, but it was the truth. Unfortunately, it was the truth. The teenager is that between the age of 13 to about 18, 19 is when it is called the teenage. So the teenager, that is Narayana Murthy, was disappointed, obviously. It seemed his dreams had burnt to ashes, because we have learned earlier that his dream was to study at the Indian Institute of Technology. So his dreams had turned into ashes. Ashes ante, when something burns, it completely becomes ashes, mitti laga. He was so near to fulfilling his fondest hope, yet so far. His heart sank in sorrow. So these lines, please underline, because they give you a sense of the feeling of the disappointment, the sadness, the sorrow that kind of engulfed Narayana Murthy. He did not reply. He never shared his unhappiness or helplessness with anybody. That was not Narayana Murthy's nature. He was an introvert. Introvert means somebody who does not talk much, somebody who does not express his feelings to outsiders, but generally keeps things inside him. The opposite of introvert is an extrovert, who would kind of talk to everybody, share his feelings with everybody. Introvert, extrovert, please remember these two words. E-X-T-R-O-V-E-R-T. That's a spelling of extrovert. His heart was bleeding, but he did not get angry with anybody. Now, bleeding does not mean, real sense lo raktam. I mean, that's not what the meaning is. The basic meaning is that his heart was bleeding means he was very, very hurt and sad, but he did not get angry with anyone. The day came, the day when, everybody who had to go for taking admission to IIT came. His classmates were now leaving for Madras, which is now Chennai. They were taking a train from Mysore to Chennai, which is not too far. They have shared many years. They had shared good years in school and college together. He went to the station to say goodbye and good luck to them for their future life. So he's a good-natured person. So even though he is not taking admission at IIT Madras, he ensured that all his other classmates who had studied with him at Chamundi Hills in Mysore and had got through to IIT Madras, he went and said goodbye to them at the railway station when they were catching their train. At the station, his friends were already there. They were excited and talking loudly. The noise was like the chirping of birds. A lot of noise at the station when the friends were all talking. They were all excited, obviously, and discussing their new hostels, new courses, etc. But Narayana Murthy was not part of it. So he stood there silently. As it is, he's an introvert. One of them noticed and said, "You should have made it." You should have made it means you should have taken admission. You should have also been coming with us, traveling to IIT Madras with us. He did not reply. He only wished all of them, saying all the best to each one of them. They waved at him as the train slowly left the platform. He stood there even after he could no longer see the train or the waving hands. It was the June of 1962. So the year has been mentioned in Mysore city. Monsoon had set in and it was getting dark. So June 1962, please underline, because it gives you a sense that we are talking about that period in time. Monsoon had set in and it was getting dark. It had started to drizzle, yet he stood there motionless. So it was almost like, he was allowing the rain to drench him and kind of help him get rid of all the sadness and the disappointment. The rain was pouring on this little young boy. He said to himself without anger or jealousy, and these next two paragraphs are very important. All students from IITs study well and do big things in life. But it is not the institution. Ultimately, it is you and you alone who can change your life by hard work. The institution, yes, it helps. But ultimately, there are students, it's not as though if there are 30 students in an institution, all the 30 students go and do very well in life. Even among the 30 students, some will do well, some will do not very well, right? Similarly, so what Narayana Murthy believes is that it's not the institution, but it is you, the individual, who can change your life by hard work. So in his motto was, it's finally hard work which is the most important thing. With hard work, irrespective of which institutions you study in, you can actually become a successful man. Probably he was not aware that he was following the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita. Your best friend is yourself and your worst enemy is yourself. This was something in the Bhagavad Gita, and obviously at that time when he thought of something like this, he did not know that this was there in the Bhagavad Gita. But Bhagavad Gita is essentially this, and this is a very deep meaning. Your good best friend is yourself, your worst enemy is yourself. Later he worked very hard and focused on one thing, never bothering about his personal life or comforts. He shared his wealth with others. He never used the help of any caste, community or political connections to go up in life. So that was his motto in life. Never use any of his political connections, caste connections, community connections, and also sharing what he got with other people. That is how Narayana Murthy grew up later in life. A son of a school teacher showed other Indians it was possible to earn wealth legally, not by any kind of unlawful means, but legally and ethically. Ethically means do it honestly, doing it the right way. He built a team of people who were equally good. So even the team of people that he built were equally good, shared the same kind of what we call value systems. Value systems. He became a pioneer. Pioneer means somebody who does the first. What I said right at the beginning, Infosys in that sense was a pioneer in the field of information technology in India. He became a pioneer of India's software industry and started the information technology wave. Today, he has become an icon of simplicity. Simplicity means simple person, uncompromising quality. That is, quality is something which Narayana Murthy will never compromise on. Quality has to be the best. Fairness, again, being very fair, honest, not kind of change depending on the person or the situation, but saying, okay, this is the right thing to do and I will do the right thing. Apart from being a philanthropist. What is a philanthropist? Someone who devotes his service or wealth for the love of society, of mankind. Okay, he really believes in the motto, powered by intellect and driven by values. Intellect is the power of the mind, the intelligence that you have, and driven by values. Driven by values is driven by the sense of doing the right thing, not the wrong thing. That's very important. He's none other than Nagavara Ramarao Narayana Murthy, N.R. Narayana Murthy. Remember the spellings and the full name. The founder of Infosys, a leading IT company in the world. Now this chapter is written by Sudha Murthy, who is a wife of Narayana Murthy, and she herself is a very well-known social worker and also the author of many books. Okay, she also was a computer scientist and an engineer, and now she heads the Infosys Foundation, which does a lot of charitable social work as the chairperson. She's the chairperson. They have set up a lot of orphanages, done a lot of work in rural India, especially rural Karnataka. Also, she's interested in music. And this particular story, and this is something which you need to know, is a selection from her most successful storybooks, How I Taught My Grandmother to Read and Other Stories. So this is taken from there. So you need to know where this particular chapter is taken from. So the questions that would come, like for instance, the author calls Murthy an introvert. Which action of Murthy substantiate this claim of the author about Murthy? About him not kind of, expressing his feelings to others. If he's unhappy or if he's feeling helpless, he will not say it to anyone else. If he's hurt, his heart is bleeding because his father cannot afford to send him to IIT Madras, he does not express it to anyone else, does not complain. He's not bitter about it. His dreams have been shattered, but he's not bitter about it because he also understands the reality of his father's and his family's financial situation. So these are the kind of questions that you will get. So if you are able to know the story and understand it very, very clearly, you will be able to address any of the questions. So any problem, any doubt you have in the story, write in the comment section. I will answer in the comment section itself. But ensure that you understand the story well, each and every word, each and every turn of phrase. Remember the keywords, underline the keywords, use them in the answers. You will do very well in the examinations. Thank you very much. Do tune in to Study with Sudhir, because we are going to be covering the entire 10th class portion of English, which is there for both Telangana and Andhra Pradesh SSC syllabus. Thank you very much for watching.